that's a challenge or that's an opportunity that can be talked about. And then conclusion is, okay, what are the steps that we take to address that challenge, grasp onto that opportunity, etc.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to be thankful for your time today. We're really excited for our opportunity and the guests we have. But before we jump into the show, if you are an avid listener of the show, we want to hear from you. Leave us that rating and review so we can get that feedback. And if this is your first time listening, make sure you hit that subscribe button or the follow button so you don't miss an episode. Now, we've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Robert Kennedy III. If you're ready to scale your apartment investing portfolio, but you have questions, make sure you join us live for a special and exclusive Q&A session we're going to be hosting Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, during this session, we're going to go over some of your top questions and some of the frequently asked questions we receive from both active investors and passive investors. This is a great opportunity to ask those direct questions, get some feedback from us, and learn how to scale your apartment investing portfolio. Join us Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Register using the link in our show notes. Again, this is live Q&A session Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can register using the link in our show notes. On today's episode of Multifamily Insights, we sit down with RK3, Robert Kennedy III. Now, Robert is an expert in helping real estate professionals understand how to tell their story to connect with prospects, whether those are investors, clients, or other individuals you want to do some business with. This is a show you don't want to miss. RK3 helps us figure out how to craft our story, what we need to highlight in our story, and how to overcome our own, self-doubts and reservations so that we can help the people who absolutely need it. If you want to learn how to better tell your story to connect with prospective clients and drive your business, check out this episode with RK3. Hey, Robert, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, man, listen, when I jump into shows, it's kind of like getting on stage for a second. So I like to do a couple of things really quickly. All right. You mind me doing something really quickly?
Let's do it, man.
Here we go. Hold on one second. Yeah, here we go. I got to wait for the drop. Hold on one second. We got to wait for the drop. Here we go. Come on.
Yes, I love it.
Hold on, I gotta bring some people in. Hold on. There we go. All right, cool. Yes, sir. How you doing, man? Good to see you, bro.
Excellent, man. I'm excellent. For those of you who are listening to the audio, Robert's got these great animations here going on, which is amazing. It's great to see. Robert, clearly you got a personality here, the character. Tell our audience exactly a little bit more about yourself.
Hey, y'all, my name is Robert Kennedy III. RK3 is what the cool people call me. I run a training company, and we work with real estate professionals and small business owners, helping them to figure out how to more confidently communicate with their prospects, clients, and customers, both in person or on video.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, listen, you started by really making sure we had the right energy for the conversation. Sure. I have been able to have a brief conversation with you before, and certainly there's a lot of personality there, which I think is always great. Some folks don't have that, right? Or maybe it's not how they're comfortable going out in the marketplace. When you talk about sharing our stories and getting comfortable to grow our business, what are some of the challenges you see that other people face when they're looking to talk to you and looking to work together?
Well, you just mentioned it. Some people are just nervous about it. People feel like they're not wired that way. They say, "Oh my gosh, I'm low key. I'm not really a charismatic person. I don't have that extroverted big personality." And it's really not about that. So there are two ways that you can go about this. You can either decide that you are going to really hit people at their heart. You've got to develop a story that really connects with the emotions and the experiences of people, or you can hit them with an energy, and that comes with making a decision about how you want to approach them. I mean, think about it. You go to a show, you go to a theater play or whatever, and you see the actors and they're doing certain things on stage, and then you meet them after, and they're not exactly the same. They don't have the same energy as the character that they're playing. The truth is, all of us play a role, we play a character depending on what we want to achieve in the interactions that we have. So Robert identifies, according to Myers-Briggs, as an introvert, but I want to have an energetic interaction with people. So I say, okay, yep, I'm going to turn up the volume on who I really am. Not that I'm being fake, not that I'm not being who I really am, but I turn up that volume a bit because I want to make sure that people have a certain experience with me. I want to curate the experiences that they have with me.
So some of our listeners may be saying that sounds great, but why should I even care about this? Maybe they're not thinking about telling their story. They have a business, they want to grow. Maybe they're looking to do more deals. Why is this important at the root cause of it?
I mean, you hear this in business all the time. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? And so the biggest thing that you can do in business is creating connection with people. Yeah, there's the money end of it. Yeah, there is, okay, yep, I can go and find this house or find this property and figure out if the numbers make sense. But at some point, you're going to run into a situation where you'll need some additional resource. You'll need some additional help. And maybe you've got to connect with a plumber or an engineer or somebody to do something with you quickly. Your time frame is really short and you're in an emergency. You need to get it done. Sometimes people do things for others because they have a relationship with them, or if they've developed some trust with them. And so in order to do that, you've got to be able to create that connection with people. And I believe storytelling and the energy that you bring are two very important elements in that.
Yeah, I love it, man. And you're right. So many of us have to understand that it's about creating connections. It's about
Yeah.
doing business with people you know, like, and trust. And that comes from that connection, right? The related experiences, the stories that people tell, making sure you can look at someone and say, okay, that guy's kind of like me or she's kind of like me. When you have that, that makes it a little bit easier to want to work with someone, especially if you're in a
Yeah.
bid situation, right? If you have multiple people you're looking at, maybe you're looking at multiple vendors for a project. If
Yeah.
you're just cold and about the numbers, I mean, people are going to be less likely to want to work with you versus somebody
Absolutely.
they feel they have a rapport with. What are your tips or insights for building rapport initially with people?
Well, I think one of the biggest things, especially if you are in a situation where you're presenting to people, you ask questions.
Hmm.
Asking questions. I'm a former science teacher, right? I used to teach biology and physics in high school, and so I relate a lot of things to scientific experience or scientific data. And there's a scientific theory that says humans can't help but answer questions once they're asked. The brain can't help it, and that's known as instinctive elaboration, right? So if you want to create connections with people, asking them questions, what it essentially does is it hijacks their brain for a moment, right? Their minds can't help but parse through some experiences. People naturally think about, do I want to experience this? Do I not want to experience this? Have I experienced this before? When you ask them a question, they're literally flipping through a mental Rolodex. So instead of just saying, hi, my name is Robert, or give me this, or here's this data, this house costs this much, this property, here's the value on this, ask questions, and not just yes or no questions, but questions like, have you ever experienced this? Or have you ever felt this? Or how would you feel if? Or can you imagine if this happened? Yeah, now my mind starts to cycle through some stuff and create pictures and run a video to see if that is something that connects with something that I've already done or experienced.
Yeah, that's a great way. You talked about, asking questions really hijack someone's brain for a moment because they have to think about that question, think about the experiences that they've had in order to
Yeah.
respond to it. And it really forces them to think deeply and kind of start building that connection. When we
Yeah.
talk about those questions, I know sometimes people say, okay, well, what question should I ask? Right. And they're sitting there going through maybe a list of questions in their heads, but there's certainly a right and wrong way to ask questions to start building that engagement. What are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah. Well, when I recommend that people don't ask yes or no questions. Yes or no questions are, do you do this or do you have this? Yeah, my mind's going to think about it, but it's going to be pretty quick. And once my mind thinks about it, I shut it down. I don't connect it to an emotion or an experience. Really, I want to ask questions that cause people to think, but I also want them to remember how they felt during that time that they experienced that. So if I think about my first experiences as a real estate agent, sharing or showing houses to someone, right? I talked to them about my first time where I was looking for my home. And I talked to them about how my wife was pregnant at the time where we were looking for our first home. And then I talked to them about that experience about sitting at the closing table for the first time and my arm feeling like it was going to fall off because I was signing my signature so many times that I did not expect this. This was something. So people, they may not have had their first closing experience yet, but they know what it's like to do something repetitively. They know they know what it's like to walk around maybe tired, or they've seen their mom or a family member pregnant and they know the emotions, or they've experienced some of the emotions that come with that. So I'm causing them to create a connection right then. So ask questions that allow people to dig into an emotional experience or a feeling.
I love that. And you said not asking yes or no questions, but when you explained it further, and what you just hit on is asking questions that allow people to dig into an emotional experience. It's also not
Yeah.
asking questions that are simply a fact, fact-based answer, right? So, how many units do you have? That's not an emotional thing, right? That's more, I have
Yeah.
X amount of units, or I've done X amount of transactions. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes, people, especially when you talk about networking events or things like that, it can
Yeah.
feel very transactional in the questions, right? They're sizing you up. They're asking questions to figure out, should I spend more time talking to you? And I think that's why
Yeah.
people always kind of clam up or feel a little, dirty going to some of
Yeah.
these kind of events, because they feel like, someone is literally sizing them up to determine their worth, as opposed to asking questions that you mentioned, which would be
Yeah.
stories. Hey, what was your first deal like? Asking
Yeah.
questions that make people think about that emotional experience, where you are actually getting to know them. You are actually starting to build a connection, as opposed to that fact-based approach. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I love that. I mean, asking a question like, what was the hardest transaction you've ever had? Or what was the most unexpected thing that's ever happened to you in a transaction or in a deal? Right? Those questions, now people are going back through the experiences. Now they're having to literally sift through, okay, yeah, that one. No, not that one. No, not that one. Oh, yeah, that one. I hated that one. And now they're forced to share with you, okay, this is what happened. This is how I felt about it. And now, as the recipient of that information, you're learning a little bit about this person. You're learning a little bit about what makes them tick, what makes them excited, what makes them angry, and you're getting these little bits of nuggets, these bite-sized chunks of information that you're now able to build essentially a little profile in your brain of that person that you're connecting with.
No, I love that. I think that's so powerful too, because it empowers us as well, where now it's more about getting to know people, as
Yeah.
opposed to, feeling like we have to master this set list of questions and, really drilling somebody. So that's really helpful for us to make sure we understand how to navigate these different
Yeah.
conversations in these environments. Let's go back to the stories though, because I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And, we've heard folks talk about the power of stories to build those connections, to build your brand, to build your business. Why are
Mhm.
stories so powerful?
Again, stories really connect with emotions, but stories, I'll break it down this way. Stories are made up of four essential elements: characters, context, challenge, and conclusion. So the characters, we relate to characters. You've never watched a movie, you've never read a story in which there was no character. If there was a book that just talked about the information, if there was a book that just talked about data and numbers, you wouldn't read it. You want to connect with a character and how the character feels, and whether you can possibly feel like the character feels, or how you would deal with it if you were in that character's situation, right? So characters are an important element. Context, what's going on in that character's world? What are they dealing with? What struggles are they facing? What are relevant situations happening around them right now? If we're talking about this economy, we just heard about the whole NAR settlement, right? The NAR settlement that just went down, and how that's going to flip the real estate industry upside down. So if I'm talking about characters, okay, agents are characters. Real estate professionals are characters. Okay, what are they feeling about this? They're kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, the rest of the United States doesn't really understand, because this whole lawsuit and the news media is making it seem like we created this monopoly with this 6%, and it's never been that. It's always been a choice of some sort. But there's some people just have made the choice more often than not in a specific range, and now it's being made to look like this, and the entire thing is. And so agents are feeling a certain way, right? So story is really good at helping us to step into the space of other people, and even from an empathetic standpoint, really just be able to feel what they feel, understand what they understand, experience what they're experiencing. And if you can do that, that puts you in a different space with your prospects and your customers.
So we got the characters, the context. You started talking about the
The
challenge.
challenge or the conflict. What's burning them up right now? What's broken in their space? What things are not working right? Or it doesn't necessarily always need to be a negative. It could be what opportunities exist for them right now. So in your space, in the investment space, it might be, okay, yep, in the state of Ohio, we've been ignoring this one county or this one area where there are a lot of upcoming properties that are opening up. This entire area has a lot of multifamilies, but most of the residents are 70, 75, 80, and they're kind of aging out of this property. So very soon, if we hang with it in the next 5 years, a lot of these properties are either going to become, going to a state or whatever it is, but let's keep an eye on this. So that's a challenge, or that's an opportunity that can be talked about. And then conclusion is, okay, what are the steps that we take to address that challenge, grasp onto that opportunity, etc.
I love it. You talked about the four C's there: character, context, challenge, and the conclusion. That's really the
Yep.
framework of any good story.
Yep.
And not to have this be too lofty for our investors. The reason this is important is, let's just say you're looking to raise capital for a deal. You're an active investor, a multifamily syndicator. You're looking to raise capital for a deal. You need to understand this component of who the individuals are you're talking to. For instance, let's say you're looking to raise capital from engineers. Okay, so the engineers are kind of the character in this story. You need to understand what's the context. What are they looking for? Maybe they
Yep.
make good money today. They're making great six figures, but they're working long hours. They're not able to spend as much time with their family, and they want to have some flexibility in the future. Maybe they want to make sure that they have something to show for all of their hard work. So for them, what's that challenge? The challenge is maybe they want to invest in real estate, but they don't know much about real estate. They don't have
Yeah.
access to deals. They don't really know how to underwrite deals. So this is where you can come in and kind of help them solve that problem so they can reach the right conclusion. So framing
Bro, you're
these
good.
things up. Well, I mean, I think the story is really important. So I spent time in this
Yeah.
space too, right? So, and my
Yeah.
background's in marketing. I spent 15 years in marketing. So it's really important because I think sometimes people think about these as very lofty ideas, and they just want to stick to the numbers and present, hey, here's this deal. It's a 15 IRR and blah, blah, blah. But
Hmm.
they're not really making that connection with the individual to help them understand how this opportunity can help them reach their own goals. Can you share more about that, especially since we do have so many people who are, you mentioned being an introvert, but people who just want to get to the numbers, show me the return, show me the numbers. Why is it so important to make sure we understand that story when presenting these numbers and figures as opposed to just simply diving in?
Yeah. So I want to make a distinction here as well. When we hear, when we hear the term story, a lot of times people immediately jump to once upon a time. They
Mm,
immediately jump to, okay, I don't know, or I don't have any stories to tell, or why would I insert or take up most of my conversation with stories? And it's really not only about the once upon a time. Stories are important. Stories that you can tell are important. But when I talk about stories, I'm also talking about the structure of story and how that can frame your marketing, how it can frame your conversations, how it can frame how you experience or how you approach. So the way that you just broke it down with engineers, I'm not talking and sharing a story with the engineer necessarily. I'm walking back through their background. I'm understanding my audience. I'm understanding my character. I'm understanding the context of what they're dealing with. And then I'm understanding a specific challenge, and I can refer to that. I can reference that when I go to have a conversation with them. I'm not just walking in and saying, hey, I got this deal for you and it's XXXX. I can now speak a language that says, yeah, I know that you're experiencing this based on your career, your job. Here's what's been happening in your market. I know that this is important to you. It can now point you to news articles. You can now look at news articles and you can pull little bits from what's happening in the world and say, yep, I know this is going to be important to that person. And so now I can reference that and bring it up and then say, because this is happening in your world, here's why this other thing is important. Here is why this challenge, this product or this solution I have is important. And forget, even before you get to the solution, here is why it's important to get to this point. So you're at C right now, and because of what's happening in your world, it's important for you to get to F. Here's the solution that I have that can walk you through D and E. Right? So that's what story is. It really is a tool that you can use to manage your conversations and how you prepare for your conversations with your prospects, whether you're in front of an audience or it's one-on-one.
I love that. And the other thing too is that it also helps you save time, because if you realize that, hey, what we offer really doesn't help someone like this, or they're not able to take advantage of it, then you can save time as opposed to, continuing to just pitch a product or pitch a deal and asking someone, but you haven't really taken the time to understand who they are, what they're looking for, and how your opportunity, serves that individual. So really good information right there. Let's talk a little bit more about, your stage. I know you do a lot of things speaking wise. We talked about, we haven't talked about it yet, but you do a lot of things for everyone on LinkedIn. So I know you have a weekly series that you do on LinkedIn called Story to Sales. Explain a little bit more about that.
So the story to sales is just what we've been talking about. I really break down a lot of different areas. So for example, this week we're talking about the why and how you should tell your business story. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how to integrate story into your email marketing conversations. Before that, we were talking about what your story says, your image story says. We had somebody who was an image consultant come on and talk about how if you come in and you don't, or your look is dated, that says something about what your information or how connected you are to current information may be. So we talk about different aspects of storytelling and how that impacts the sales process or the connection process for real estate professionals and small business owners.
So that's what you're doing for small business owners on LinkedIn. I know you speak at conferences all around the country as well. Why do people hire you to come speak to their audiences?
So several reasons. Number one, if we're talking about real estate conferences are where I do the majority of my speaking these days. Real estate professionals, because of upheaval in the industry, because technologically we're changing. So back in the day, you used to be able to prospect by sending out postcards to a specific geographical area or location, right? Your sphere. You used to do things this way. And now we've got social media and people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get on TikTok and dance and point at stuff. But they're finding out that video is a crucial piece of that, your marketing approach now. So how do you do that? How do you do that comfortably? How do you do that with confidence, whether that's on YouTube or Facebook or live streaming? You're doing a podcast right now to create content, right? How do you do that effectively? And how do you use storytelling as a structure or as a framework for building all of that out? So those are the topics that I lean into and speak about. Things like video storytelling formula is one of the presentations that we do. We do another one called Captivate Your Clients, how to run seminars with confidence. We do another one called Words That Sell, how to create compelling content with your listings through storytelling. So those are the types of things that we talk about.
I love it. If you don't mind, I'd love to pick on that words that sell concept real quick. Are there a couple of words that really jump out to you that we could be using to help, I don't want to say persuade, but to help people understand the benefits of some of our offerings?
Yeah. So it's sometimes it's a specific word. It's really about the experience that you want to create. a lot of times, if you look at listings, if you go into the MLS or any of the multiple listing services, you see very nice 3-bedroom home. It's got lawn, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the words that I say, listen, instead of just spitting out the facts about the home, can you create an experience for people? So instead of saying nice 2-bedroom home with a deck, how about you change that to imagine sitting on a deck with your legs extended in a lawn chair, looking out at the pool with the nicely landscaped backyard, right? So now you've created a video in their brains, right? Even before they've seen the picture, your words have created something in their mind. You've given them a command with the word imagine, okay, or picture this, right? You've given this information. People begin to imagine themselves in that space instead of just simply reading the facts or the data that you've placed in the listing.
No, I love it, man. That's really good stuff there. We'll definitely make sure we check that out. For folks who do want to learn more about you, you've got some information available on your website. So you can get in touch with RK3 by going to getintouchwithrk3.com. So made that really, really straightforward. So get in touch with RK3.com if you want to learn more and stay in touch with RK3. Right now, we're going to transition to our round of insights. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. Give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Oh, man. Wow. I would say when I got let go from my college teaching job. I had just moved to the state of Maryland, and we had 3 kids under the age of at the time, and I got let go 10 days after we made that move. And I was working online, and it was crazy. I was applying for jobs, and I wasn't getting anything. I wasn't even getting interviews, and that was really the foundation of me saying, you know what, I need to make something happen. And I started an e-learning company maybe several months later. That was my first business that I created where I was 100% in business without having another job.
You said you had 3 kids under what age?
Under the age of 5.
Wow.
Yeah, my
that's tough, man.
4,
Yeah.
a 2-year-old son and a 5-month-old son at the time. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that. All right. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Man, so that's the wrong question to ask me, man, because I'm a little bit of a techie, nerdy in some ways. There's so many different things. I could recommend a lot of AI tools these days. ClickUp is a tool that I use in my business for project management and task management and conversations with my team. We use Go High Level as our backend for CRMs and courses and all the other things. I use Pictory as an AI tool for podcast production or repurposing. So there are so many different things. I'm the wrong person to say pick one tool.
Oh, you gave us a few good examples. What was the last one you said?
Pictory.ai.
Pictory. All right, we'll make sure you check that out. All right,
hey,
give me the book.
Make sure you hit my affiliate link though.
There we go. I get credit for it, right?
Yes.
All right. Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
The book I've recommended the most or gifted the most. When people ask me that, I go back to the first personal development book that my dad gave to me, and that was Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. That was a book that just shifted the way that I saw myself and thought about money and what I could create in my life, as opposed to the standard educational pathway and process that I've been growing up. And it also made me look at my dad differently, because I thought my dad was kind of, yeah, you go to school, you get your education, you get a job, and you do that for the next 40 years, and that's it. And he was essentially saying with that book, nope, there's some different stuff that you can do, son. And here's something to shift that for you. Even if I can't explain it to you 100%, here's somebody who can. Here's the book.
What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
Wow. Meditation. Just getting up, meditating, just clearing my mind. I also sit and I write my goals daily. I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes I miss a day or two, but I have a notebook where I sit down and I rewrite the goals that I set at the top of the year or prior to that. And not just my yearly goals, but what I want to get to in 5 or 10 years. And I don't write them as I hope to, or one day I will. I write them in the present tense as if I've already done this. I own X amount of investment properties. I visited, my wife and I have visited 40 plus countries, etc. So, yeah.
What's your number one insight for telling great stories?
My number one insight for telling great stories is first become comfortable with your story. What's the thing that has most meaning to you and drives you? What are you passionate about? What is something central or core to you that leans into your why? Why do you do what you do? Why do you operate the way you operate? Why do you wake up each morning to do something in the world? Get comfortable with you.
I love it. I love it. All right. And you're in the DC area, am I correct?
Yes.
All right.
I am. You're in office in Laurel.
All right. So you're in the DC area. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Man, you're asking me some difficult questions. You know what? I like Italian food. And so I would say Maggiano's is one of my favorite Italian restaurants.
All right, Maggiano's it is. RK3, you gave us some great information. I loved hearing you talk about, your approach to telling stories, why stories are so important, how we can be better storytellers, and asking better questions. When you talked about not asking yes or no questions, not asking these, you want to ask more open-ended questions, but specifically, you want to ask the kind of questions that make people think and go back and have to think about an emotional experience so that they can connect. And that's going to allow you to build better connections than simply asking database, fact-based, yes or no kind of questions. So really great insight, something all of us can implement right away, just asking better questions to make those connections. And that's going to allow us to grow our business because we know people do business with those they know, like, and trust. That's going to be your way to build these relationships. So great information. You got 2 ways to get in touch. One is we can go to your website, get in touch with rk3.com. And then you've got the weekly series on LinkedIn, Story to Sales. So you do that 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to follow or connect with RK3 on LinkedIn as well. We're going to make sure we put links to our show notes in both of those. So RK3, we want to thank you again for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you and hope you have a great day.